Okay, did you get your coffee? Awesome. So, right now we're going to do class 2, and that is going to be on marketing planning. So, let's head on over to the PowerPoint and get started. So, class 2, marketing planning part 1, we're going to go through 3 things. The marketing plan, so we'll talk about elements that go into the marketing plan. Knowing your media project. This goes much deeper than just being able to say, the very basics of what it is and its audience. And the third thing is just about research. That part will be really quick. The biggest part here is the marketing plan and the components that go into it. And it's text heavy, so I'm sorry about that, but we definitely have to get through it so that you know what to put into your exam. Right, here's our list. Yay, class 1 is done, and soon class 2 will be over as well. All right, what we're going to do is the marketing plan, know your project, and how to and what kinds of research to conduct. So great marketing plans don't happen just because of serendipity. Strategic planning is the discipline of approaching any business enterprise by examining the competitive context in which it will be operating. Also, clearly identifying markets, audiences, goals, and its positioning, and developing a specific plan of action to reach those goals. So, start with goals and objectives. This part might cause more disagreement than any other part of the process. As a group, what do you guys agree are the goals and objectives for this TV miniseries that you're writing together? But when you finally agree on the goals and objectives, the strategies to achieve the goals basically fall into place. So here's some bullet points that I'm going to go through about your marketing plan. It establishes a beacon that informs all decisions. So this is the go-to text where all of the information about what you're going to do, all the answers can be found in this marketing plan. It promotes strategic thinking and creativity, challenges assumptions, allows for risk taking. It includes stakeholders' perspectives. What does that mean? So, for example, if you guys were to partner with Randall Plunkett, for example, he would become a stakeholder in this project. So here in this part, in this bullet about including your stakeholders' perspectives, but also you guys are stakeholders. So what are your perspectives? And if one of the characters is vegan, that's great, but also then you can't make him eat meat, right? Or you can make him eat meat if it's a challenge that Sasha has given you, right? Sasha challenges you guys, like, what's the one thing your character would never do? Now figure out a way to make them do that. So it would have to be like within that context. Okay, back over to the PowerPoint. It leverages your assets. It finds synergies across disciplines. It unifies the project team and clarifies roles, promotes efficient and cost-effective use of resources, that's money and people, creates a logical and accountable structure, establishes evaluation criteria, and is unique to your project. So it's written for your project. So here are the 4 P's that we discussed in class 1. Product, price, place, and promotion. I'm not going to read through this slide, but you can read through it again if you need a reminder on what these are. Okay? Oh boy, here are all the elements of a marketing plan. Now, I don't want you to freak out because honestly, some of this stuff you've already written. Yay. Okay. So don't get scared, but this is what goes into a marketing plan. Title page, executive summary, story Bible overview, transmedia platforms, distribution, your situation analysis, marketing research, target audiences, goals and objectives, marketing strategies, branding and positioning, strategic partners, marketing action plan, evaluation, project timeline, budget, and project team. There we go. So let's go through these. Your title page is the working title of your project, followed by the words marketing plan. Wow, I should have edited this. Sorry about that. You can also insert art on the title page, a photo, a painting, a screenshot, or a logo that sets the tone. And a date, because marketing plans, are fluid and they're continually being edited and updated. So you want to make sure that each version of the marketing plan has a new date written on it so everybody knows that they're reading the latest one. The executive summary is usually about 2 paragraphs. There's the project description. This is genre, your archetypal story. I'll talk about that in a few slides. Your media platforms, plot, characters, mood, and themes. And then the second thing is marketing and your environmental overview. So project goals or your mission, timing, your key environmental landscape, and a SWOT analysis, target audiences, overall marketing approach to reach audiences. I'm going to go through all of this stuff in our classes. So if you don't know what a SWOT analysis is, yay, guess what? I'm going to tell you what it is today. Woo! Okay. Now, next. Your story Bible overview. So you can write this in paragraph form as you saw in the example for Stranger Things, for example. That was the document that was originally entitled Montauk. Your characters, your mood, your theme, your plot, your audience calls to action. So what audiences must do, where they go to get more story, character, and plot information. And your story timeline. Next is transmedia platforms. So you want to identify which platforms your project will use. Film, television, radio, books, publications like newspapers and magazines, games, digital like web, blog, social media, apps, and experiential like theater, concerts, exhibitions, live installations, events, theme parks, toys. Or other platforms like merchandise, music, etc. Anything's possible in transmedia. Distribution, this is about, who are your distribution partners or your desired distribution partners. Releases, so how audiences will access the media. Will that be on Netflix? Will that be on Amazon Prime? Will it be through BBC? And a timeline of the release by platform. So, for example, I don't know if you guys watch Bosch, but it's actually an Amazon Prime show. But Amazon Prime releases it like they have a contract with HBO. So Bosch, the new season, was aired on HBO even before Amazon Prime, even though Amazon Prime produced it. It's their show. I know, I'm full of interesting information. All right, that's distribution. So maybe if you're Amazon Prime, your timeline is we're going to release Bosch on HBO first, and then a month later we'll release it on our own subscription-based service or streaming service. Your situation analysis, that can begin with a short narrative overview of the overall landscape and challenges and opportunities of the market, but it may not be necessary if you cover it or if you've covered it in your executive summary. The environmental landscape, for this, you're going to use secondary research, which means that it's research that somebody else has already done. It's from existing sources. And you're going to use this to fully lay out the quote unquote situation in which you're developing, launching, and marketing your project. You must look at the overall media landscape as well as the specific marketplace in which your project will be opening. So this includes examining similar projects within the genre. And so you have general leisure landscape. So under that, you have leisure time trends, entertainment trends and usage, technology penetration and trends, film, TV, games, and digital trends. Then the second one is competitive audit by platform and genre. So specific platform and genre trends. So for example, maybe you want to give some information about shows that have come out in the past 5 years that fall into the genre of the new weird or slipstream. So BOA, Stranger Things, films or shows like that, that you can say that now that there have been so many slipstream or new weird genres being streamed on these services, that maybe there's a trend building to create more slipstream TV shows. Segment analysis by platform, genre, and target audience, and a competitive project marketing analysis. So taglines, audiences, marketing tactics, and spending. And the third thing is a SWOT analysis. So this is analyzing your project and then really looking at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And in this class and also in our textbook, we switch those around so that it's strengths and opportunities and then weaknesses and threats. But I'll get to that in a little bit. So marketing research, in this section of the marketing plan, you're going to have these 4 points. So, all good marketing research is based on audience insight and data collection. So whether you have a large budget or not, you must conduct some informal research with your potential target audiences to guide your marketing approaches and also like your messages, your spokespeople, and other like key marketing decisions. So in this section of the plan, you indicate what research has already been conducted and what additional secondary and primary research you will conduct for your project. So secondary research is the collection of existing data or research that is pertinent to your project. So if your project is very much like Stranger Things and Indiana Jones, then you need to collect research that's based on, those franchises and transmedia projects, and use these are like your projections that you are going to project that your sales or your audience engagement is going to be similar to audiences of Stranger Things or Indiana Jones. Primary research is conducted usually by you or you hire an outside firm to conduct this specifically for your project. If secondary research doesn't exist to give you the insight you need for your project. That can be really expensive and really time consuming. Quantitative research is statistically significant research conducted among a larger target audience population from which conclusions are drawn. So online panels and surveys, for example. I'm going to talk more about research in a little while, but this is just an overview. Qualitative research then is not statistically significant, but it offers directional insight from like small audience segments like focus groups and beta testing. So, like, quick story, when I lived in LA, it was pretty easy to get tickets to go see films before they were theatrically released. And so you know, it's free. Like you could go watch films, you know, months before they were released. You watch the film and then you fill out a survey and you hand in the survey before you leave. And that's a focus group. Audiences watching films and saying whether or not they're, you know, like happy or satisfied with the way that the ending is, or the romance, or something like that. Okay, next, target audiences. So you want to identify key audiences. Sorry, I know it's probably driving some of you crazy. Um, so your project may have many audiences, so it's important to determine which are primary. And you know, this is important because you don't want to just say my target audience is the general public. That is not true. The general public is never a key audience. You need to be much more specific than saying general public. The next one is influencer audiences. So press, industry leaders, distributors, tastemakers, educators, government officials. These, Justin Bieber, if you can get him. Public audiences. So this varies greatly, but it can change. It can range from, for example, you know, soccer moms to like tech savvy college students. But you want to be specific. Demographic profile, you know, demographics can include anything from age, gender, ethnicity, education, household income, geography, language, so on and so forth. And then psychological profile. That's a big one nowadays with the DIY culture. But what are your audience's predispositions and interests? Like, for example, you know, Steen and I don't necessarily have a lot of demographic information in common with you guys in terms of age, education, geography, you know, stuff like that. So, like, we're in a different generation. You know, we have, you know, multiple degrees between us. We have, you know, we're from different parts of the world. We speak different languages, so on and so forth. And yet, does it surprise you that Steen and I also really enjoy a lot of the same things you guys enjoy in terms of film and TV shows? So that has to do with psychological profile. So that's something that you want to pay attention to. And again, why you want to utilize multiple platforms. Um, Maybe people in my generation and Steen's generation, maybe we use Facebook more than Instagram, for example. So I'm back to the Facebook thing. If you want to reach us, you need to go and promote your material where we are, because we will be brand ambassadors for your project, right? Isn't that kind of cool? I think it's cool. Really interesting stuff. Okay. Um, Goals and objectives. So this is the heart and soul of your business plan. Goals are broader strokes on what you're trying to achieve. Objectives pay off on the goals, and they're tangible, concrete, and quantifiable. Goals, you know, these are your general intentions, usually 1 to 3 general intentions. Objectives are specific, time bound, and measurable through evaluation. They articulate key objectives for each of the general areas that you plan to measure. And then under that, of course, you have quantitative and qualitative objectives. So, you know, quantitatively speaking, maybe you're looking at box office sales or Nielsen rating, or maybe number of downloads or views or unique visitors or click throughs. or time spent viewing, or shares, or tweets, or a GRP, which is a gross rating point, which we can get into another time. You guys aren't really there yet. Media impressions, ad equivalencies, and like audience awareness. Those are all things that can be measured quantitatively. Qualitatively, this could be reviews, key message pickups, anecdotal comments, buzz that's generated, cultural currency, and audience perceptions. Marketing strategies explains the how for your goals and objectives. So these strategies, they raise awareness among tastemakers. They launch product at critical timing or at an event, like Comic-Con. It creates dialogue among certain target audiences. Branding and positioning has 4 bullet points, and this is where you establish guidelines for how you want to establish a persona and give voice to your project. So here you would talk about your brand attributes, your brand essence, your positioning, your messaging, and who your spokespeople are. So, a lot of times your spokespeople will be, the showrunner, the producers, the director, if it's not the same as the showrunner, but also your actors, right? Your main actors. You also often see commentary and people who talk about it in public. Okay, and then we have strategic partners. So by forging partnerships with entities that believe in your project and have capacity in areas in which you don't, you can give your project breadth and depth. Many partners will offer support in more than one of these 4 areas. So again, maybe you want to think about Randall Plunkett and the fact that, he's a producer and a director, and he has a nature preserve and he rescues animals. So he has a wide network that you guys wouldn't be able to reach, for example. So that's why he would make a good strategic partner. Sorry, but let me go back. Also, SGS is a strategic partner. So is Tlaykenton. Can you guys think of some other strategic partners who could help with your project that you know already, or other ones that maybe you dream of being partnered with? So media, this would be media creators, distributors, and publishers. Marketing promotion, these would be distributors, sponsors. Outreach would be membership organizations and partners. So are you part of an organization, like the Scouts, for example? And cause, which would be like non-government organizations, NGOs, or charities, for example. If you wanted to, I know one thing I've been, thinking about for many years is trying to partner SGS with Waterman pens or Mont Blanc pens, because, they're like really expensive, high quality pens, and they're gorgeous. The design is beautiful. Also, Rolex actually has an application on their website where you can apply for grant money from them, and you have to write up this marketing plan on, how your project aligns with their philosophies, and I'm just like, the SGS tagline of, time to write, which can mean it's time to write or you have time to write. And I was just thinking like how that could just blend beautifully with Rolex watches. And of course, maybe we could all walk around wearing Rolex. But anyway, so you want to start thinking about these like tie-ins with other organizations and companies, that might be able to help promote and support your project. Okay, next we have marketing action plan. So this is the nuts and bolts of your marketing plan and where the promotion of your plan begins. Your tactics, they'll be determined by many things from your goals and audiences to your platforms and budget. You can set up the section in multiple ways by time frame with ordered tactics within each phase, or by audience with tactics that are targeted to each audience, or by strategy with various tactics that pay off on each. So if you, for example, were going to order it by influencer tactics, then maybe you would look at industry trade publicity, and that means being written about in the Hollywood Reporter or Variety, or magazines like that, trade publications. Also, like markets, festivals, and industry events. And this, of course, would be something like the Blair Witch Project. And awards. So if you were to win an award for the series that you've written for the project for this semester, that award is a tactic that you could put into your marketing plan. There's also public tactics, so consumer publicity, trailers and sizzle reels, advertising, and then social media and public events. Evaluation, you want to evaluate like what worked and what didn't, and you want to do this like both midstream of your whole plan, um, your whole process. So do that in the middle, but also at the end. Some of the things that you come up with are going to be riskier, and the riskier ideas are meant to be learning opportunities. They might succeed and they might fail. So the Blair Witch Project posters, that could have succeeded or it could have failed. It could have gone either way. It happened to be like a raging success. Same thing with paranormal activity. Like, how odd to come up with the idea of like recording audience reactions only, only showing that to the audience watching the ad. Um, that's weird, but it worked. It was so successful, but they could have failed. Um, so when setting goals, it's important to identify, goals and objectives. So these are like, measures that you set out to achieve, and then you go and evaluate it. So quantitatively speaking, did you hit your box office sales, your Nielsen ratings, how many views, downloads, visitors, click-throughs, so on and so forth, did you actually hit? What about qualitative reviews? Yeah, like there you want to research that, and you want to see like how did people did people write reviews? What did the reviews say? What about anecdotal comments, audience perceptions, cultural currency, and stuff like that? So you're going to evaluate it at the end. Then we have project timeline. It's impossible really to accurately predict how long it will take to fund, develop, produce, launch, and market your project. But estimating a timeline is critical. Timing affects funding, distribution, launch strategies, and so much more. So these are the 5 phases in which your planning and execution activities might occur. So development, this is your research and your planning stage. Production, this is creating content and marketing elements. Then you have your launch and your distribution, where the most content and marketing activity occurs. The post-launch, this is continued deeper audience engagement activities. And the 5th one is sort of this ongoing phase where there's maintenance activities to keep your project relevant, social media, and then also releasing new content that maybe it's a teaser for the next season, for example, or Maybe, it's an event where audiences get to interact with the actors. Okay, the budget. Um, Here, you should start with a budget that's based on industry norms. On average, like big studios spend one half to one third of production budgets on marketing. And smaller companies, they spend about a quarter. TV networks and cable, they spend about a third, as do games. So maybe you want to aim for about a third of your budget to be for, marketing this transmedia project. Don't shut down good ideas because of money. You can also develop fantastic marketing plans with small budgets if you wisely use assets that you quote unquote own or co-own. So SGS and Tlaykenton would definitely fall into that category. Set up your budget by, either activity or timeline, but ensure that it corresponds directly with the sections of your marketing plan. So within the plan, your budget may just have like total amounts for key categories. But you can create a detailed budget later and use it as an attachment. So the budget includes funding strategy and sources, current and perspective. Fix that real quick. Resources and personnel required. Production budget by activity. And, under that, there are 7 key categories. Above the line, this includes creatives such as producers, directors, writers, actors, casting directors, and then there are like costs for travel, development, assistance, stuff like that. Below the line would be your crew, your equipment, your food, transportation, props, locations, and other resources. Post-production includes an editor, composer, sound designer, visual effects, and colorist, for example. Number 4 is overhead, and overhead is usually like the renting of office space or legal fees or postage, for example. A lot of the admin stuff. Number 5 is marketing and distribution. So here you're looking at the costs for research, media buys, public relations, social media, maybe web and digital design, graphic design, photography, trailers, events, film prints, and supplies. Number 6 is contingency, and this is a percentage of the overall budget. It's extra money that's set aside for something that pops up, something unexpected that you want to ensure that you can actually do. But you had no idea, you had no way of like seeing it coming down the pipeline. And then lastly is insurance, and that's also a percentage of the overall budget. Or, it can be sort of like placed within sections of the budget, depending on the type of insurance being used. So you can also break down the budget into phases, development, pre-production, production, and post-production, and do like a budget for each one of those 4, phases of the project. And lastly is the project team. This is a critical section because it underscores your project creator's expertise and the project's pedigree. So you want to cite other similar or successful projects and relevant experience of the key project personnel and partners. So that includes biographies, which are around 150 words each. So, for example, you could take what we collected from you guys for the new SGS website and then expand on that. And then the second one is partners boilerplates. So maybe 1 paragraph company descriptors for the project, production company, distributors, and promotional or like outreach partners. The marketing plan begins as an internal document, amongst yourselves, but as it's refined, it may become more public because it'll be used with prospective partners and stakeholders. So if you are sending it out for those purposes, it might also then be accompanied with like a longer project treatment, story Bible, sample episodes, and a budget, for example. Okay, so those are the elements of a marketing plan. And that's what you'll be putting into your semester project, your semester exam for the business class. But, before you freak out, like, remember that this is like experimental. So, of course, this is not going to be a professional marketing plan, but I want you guys to work at each one of these sections so that you can start to, expand your mind into the business world of media and transmedia. So that you have a better understanding of when you go out into the real world and I don't know, Lifetime or Bravo, ABC, NBC, hires you on to be a staff writer, that you understand the process of how these projects begin and how they're developed and how they're launched. Okay, good. So in order to do this, you have to know your project. And we're getting close to the end, by the way. I have this slide and then 1, 2, 3, 4 more slides, okay? So know your project. So many people fall into the trap of describing the characters and the plot, but that's not necessarily what it's about. You want to dig deeper and find the hidden themes or messages that make it appeal to audiences, to human instincts. And that transcends platform and genre. So, you can also look at like the 7 archetypal stories, Slaying the Beast, or the story of the underdog, The Quest, Voyage and Return, Comedy, Tragedy, Rags to Riches, and Rebirth. You can also think about the 7 core story types expressed in Core Conflict by Sir Thomas Quiller Couch. So that would be person versus person, person versus themselves, person versus nature, person versus society, person versus supernatural, person versus machine, and person versus destiny. So look for themes. Titanic is both a love story and a disaster story, but it's also about ego and greed and inequity. Pride and Prejudice is about status and class and roles and sexism and pride and competition and control and truth and honor and scandal. Stories with a lot of emotion and key themes below the surface generally withstand the test of time. So you want to know your project on this deeper thematic level. Once you figure out what it's about, well, one thing you can do is you can go outside your bubble, which means maybe the 8 of us who have been working together this semester very closely, collaboratively. You want to go outside of that bubble and get feedback and ask people outside of this bubble these questions. Can you tell me what this 3-episode TV series is about? And what are the key themes? What emotions does it evoke? And why do you care? What does it remind you of? What character do you relate to most and why? Who would like it and why? Are other projects out there like it? So, interestingly, once you figure this stuff out and you sort of take it to like your beta readers or whatever, if you were to pitch this project, you basically have 30 seconds of any pitch, right? You get 30 seconds to quickly communicate your project's themes, conflict, mood, setting, platform, and genre. And some of you will like absolutely love this and like rise to this challenge. Like, I can write this pitch, this 30-second pitch. And like, yeah, I can take on that challenge, rise to the occasion. Um, but some of you are going to feel like creating this like 30-second pitch is like doing taxes, right? So talk amongst yourselves about maybe, who enjoys this kind of work more. Some of you are really going to shine at it, and some of you are really just going to want to cower in the corner, and that's okay. But talk to each other about it and see who is like really interested in this kind of work, writing this pitch. Okay. Your SWOT analysis, this is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is applied to all business plans and marketing plans, no matter what the project or company is. But I'm going to talk about SWOT in terms of a media project, your media project. So number one, with strengths, this is, for example, the talent that you have. And I don't mean your own talent. I mean actors. Do you have actors signed on to work on this project? Or pedigree that's attached to the project. So notable actors, directors, partners, for example. Pre-existing brand equity. So let's say let's say you took a New York Times bestseller and you're turning that into a project. So it was already a New York Times bestseller. So it has a pre-existing brand equity. Obviously, for what you guys are working on, Lord Dunsany already has pre-existing brand equity. So you want to bring that into your SWOT analysis. And then you want to talk about, are you creating something that's, new, or it's the first of its kind, or it's really unique? Another thing would be project elements. So number, size, and scope, basically. So 3 episodes that are 55 minutes long, and then describe what the scope of the project is. The approach, for example, is a strength, and this would be when you're considering mood, feeling, and character, and its ability to appeal to audiences and be relevant, be a relevant cultural touchstone. So, if you were to, really focus on bringing in representation as one of your main themes. It might require that you still make some changes, perhaps. But if representation were something that you were really interested in promoting in this series, then that could be written down as one of your strengths, because this could be, a relevant cultural touchstone. Because as we know, representation is only just now beginning to flourish. The second one, I'm going to skip to opportunities. Remember, I'm going to do SOWT. So maybe your project is part of a growing trend, like some hot trend. And this could be its subject matter, its cultural movement, geography, platform, genre. And you want to provide examples of the trend. Property can be part of your property or your production. It can be part of more than one trend, and so you want to keep that in mind. And other opportunities are that maybe it shows potential for like a huge following, for example. Okay, weaknesses. This is like your competition. So are there similar or competing projects? I'm wondering if you guys are subscribed to The Hollywood Reporter or Variety, those trade magazines. If you're not, you should be, so that you have your finger on the pulse of Hollywood. So you know what new shows are coming out, what new films are being produced. so that you know what's happening in the media world. So Hollywood Reporter and Variety are just two trade magazines that you could subscribe to. I'm sure there are others, and so maybe if you guys want to share some of those, like let's share that in the Facebook group. So what else? If your show is so new and unique, that could potentially cause audience confusion, and so you need to write that down. Also, you need to write about how you would differentiate yourself from other competition. Unknown pedigrees. This is a weakness. You know, how do I say this? Well, if you don't have any like A-list actors and directors on board with this project, then, pretty much everyone working on it, has an unknown pedigree, and this is seen as a weakness. And that's okay because, a lot of new projects have started that way, right? As like indie films, indie projects, they're unknown pedigrees, and then all of a sudden they go viral, and those unknown pedigrees, become known pedigrees. Okay, bad press or bad reputation, that could be a weakness. If your project is not new or fresh, or if it's complicated, those could be weaknesses. Um, yeah, threats. Threats could be, for example, timing. Um, Maybe if the subject matter or the genre is hot now, like will it still be hot when it's being produced or when it's, distributed? Other threats could be, so the first one is timing. Other threats could be like perception. And this could be like audiences' assumptions about the subject or the approach of your project. And of course, world events, something huge like on a global level that could, prevent your project from happening. For example, coronavirus. So, a lot of series and films that were in production had to stop. And so we're going to see like a lot of films that were and shows that were scheduled to come out at a certain time that unfortunately has been pushed. So, these things happen. But if there are any threats that you can foresee, then you should write them here. So research, this is my last slide. You want to start with secondary research because you're gathering existing research that's already been conducted by other organizations, and that saves you a lot of time in terms of getting the information that you need. Primary research, is research that you conduct specifically for your project, when what's available out there in terms of secondary research isn't enough. Quantitative offers a wide, impersonal view and is based on the scientific method for the systematic and objective collection, modeling, and analysis of empirical data using statistical, mathematical, or numerical techniques. So, oh my gosh, what does that mean? So when you hear things like 64% of males aged 18 to 24 prefer sci-fi to romance. That's a result from a quantitative study. Qualitative research, on the other hand, offers a narrow but a personal view that's more subjective and is used for exploratory purposes. So focus groups, in-depth interviews, and dial testing. And, a lot of producers have wake-up calls and are incredibly humbled when they use qualitative research in the form of focus groups and in-depth interviews and dial testing because the producers might think that they have hit the nail on the head, but to beta test it with audiences and only to discover that the romance isn't strong enough, or that people aren't believing a storyline, or that negative audience reactions. And getting those ahead of time before it's launched or distributed is invaluable, because then you can go back to editing or rewriting and make sure that you give the audiences what they're seeking. Dial testing is really fun because you get this device that you can see here in the slide. The audience gets this device, and then there's a scale that basically, like, they watch a TV show and then they use this scale, the knob, to say, yes, this is like very appealing, or this is completely unappealing. So like cringy sex scenes, blah, the knob gets turned down. Or for example, like a really quick montage or something, or something that's like really palatable would be, maybe you're watching a crime show and, certain things are revealed, or the acting is really good or something like that. So audiences who are beta testing, they just say, yes, I'm enjoying this. No, I'm not. And they just do this throughout the whole episode. And it gives you, like in this PowerPoint, it gives you this graph. And then the graph, do you see how there's like a red line, a blue line, a white line, a yellow line, and a green line? So those colors for those lines will indicate different demographics. So like females aged 18 to 24 might be blue, and females, that are whatever, 50 to 55 might be red. So there are demographics attached to each one of these colored lines. So they can see like, oh, okay, well maybe, as we see here, maybe, the audience that we're aiming for, is this certain demographic, and they're saying that it's highly appealing, while maybe, I don't know if it's let's just hypothetically say it's a gender thing or whatever, but whoever they're targeting actually is enjoying it, and it goes up to 80, while maybe the target audience that they're not targeting, finds it completely unappealing, and you can see that green line just plummets. But, unfortunately, if it's reversed and they're targeting one group and not targeting the other, and the lines aren't going where they think they're going to go, you're going to have to make adjustments in post-production. Okay, so that is it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and then we're going to have a group call, and we're going to discuss the Martin Scorsese Presents the Blues. And if we have time, we'll also talk about AI's The Beast. Okay, so a lot of information, I know, and the next few classes will be going over these things a little bit in more depth, so that you can start the writing process for the marketing plan and the pitch for your overall project, okay? Talk to you in a bit. Bye.